FPL double game week 25 final team selection decisions. In today's video, we're going to go through everything you need to know about the upcoming double and what you should be doing with your teams and what chip you should potentially be playing if you haven't already activated the assistant manager for this week. We'll talk about whether you should be buying Morgan Rogers or should you be going straight to someone like a Justin Kluivert or a Dango Atara at Bournemouth. And we'll look at my team. Will I be playing my assistant manager? Will I be going with Unai Emery, or will I be saving it for a potential double later on in the season? What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. And diving into the final decisions, we're going to start off with the big questions of the week, the new segment we've got at the beginning of this video. First off is, should you buy Justin Kluivert? Should you buy Kluivert, or should you be buying Morgan Rogers, a Bournemouth midfielder, or should you go to Rogers for the double? Personally, if you have the luxury that you don't have too many things to put out in your team, too many fires, you have the ability that you're well set up, you're not maybe having the assistant manager active, but generally your team is well set up enough to get through game week 29 without forcing a hit, I would try and go to Morgan Rogers first. If you've got a lot of players from Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Liverpool, and maybe Aston Villa already, and you don't have loads of transfers in the bank, then I would just go straight to a Bournemouth midfielder. My general answer is, if you can, try and go to Rogers first, as long as it doesn't force a hit going into game week 29, the blank game week. Because, of course, Morgan Rogers does blank in game week 29, and your Bournemouth midfielders do not. Next up is, if you have the assistant manager, should you be playing it on Arne Slot, or should you be playing on Unai Emery? This is a pretty straightforward answer. If you've got a spare Liverpool spot available, I would be playing it on Arne Slot. But if you don't, I would be going with Unai Emery. Now, we might hear something in the press conference on Friday that gives us a bit of an update to someone like a Gakpo or a Trent, in which case you might look to sell one of them. But generally, if you've got space for a Liverpool player, go Arne Slot. If not, then I would go with Unai Emery. And if you had David Moyes, definitely go Unai Emery. And final one is, should you be playing the triple captain or the assistant manager if you did not play a chip at all? If you've got all of your chips available, you need to be playing a chip this week. There are only likely to be 3 doubles, 2 blanks for the remainder of the season. If you have all of your chips and you don't play one this week, you'll be left playing too many in single game week. So I will be playing a chip, and I do prefer the triple captain on Mo Salah at home to Wolves and away to Aston Villa over going with the manager chip this week. Next up, having a look at injuries, starting off at Chelsea. So it looks like Jackson and Mark Gui are going to be out for a while, particularly Jackson being the highly owned one and having a bit of a knock-on impact. He's going to be out for around 2 months. Now, the other thing to note, that it is likely that Christopher Nkunku, 5.7 midfielder, who we all started with in game week 1, is likely to be leading the line for Chelsea, but I wouldn't go buying him, and it does look like Chelsea might be a little bit weaker going forward. I actually do think, though, it might be a bit of a boost to Cole Palmer, who might see himself playing in a bit of a false 9 at times as well, but it should probably dampen Chelsea's attack overall, and I wouldn't be buying Christopher Nkunku. Next up is Kai Havertz is out for the season, which means Arsenal attack at the moment is going to be without Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, and Martinelli at the moment, which definitely is probably their first 4 choice front 4 at the moment. Maybe you could throw Trossard in there. It looks like their front 3, is going to be Sterling, Trossard, Ranieri, with Odegaard playing in midfield just behind them. Do I think that Ranieri is a good buy? I don't mind it. He's cheap. He's only 4.5 million, but I do think Arsenal may struggle a little bit for goals with all of those players out. Moving to the final bit of press conference news, it's just to say we haven't really had any press conference news on Thursday at time recording. So basically wait until they all take place on Friday. 14 of the 20 teams and basically everyone we're waiting for an update for in terms of anything FPL relevant all take place on Friday. So keep an eye out for that. I will post anything relevant, useful on Twitter and on Instagram. If not, we will cover it all in the deadline stream. Of course, a reminder again, it is a Friday evening deadline. So from 4:30 till 6:30 UK time, we'll be covering everything, answering your questions, and looking at anything that might have happened in those press conferences on Friday. Next up is having a look at players to buy, and a lot of it revolves around your chip strategy. So it says a little bit of a note at the top before we go into this, and it's going to be a kind of strategy as we go throughout the season. It's going to mainly revolve around the most popular chip strategy, which is not to free hit in game week 29. But if you're going to free hit in game week 29, players you buy might be a little bit different. So the players with the little exclamation marks next to them are ones that are going to blank in game week 29. And if you're not going to free hit, then you need to be cautious about buying these players. Of course, the 4 teams with a blank in 29 are Newcastle and Crystal Palace and Aston Villa and Liverpool as well. If you need more information on the blanks, doubles, and everything like that, please check out the new chip guide video that is on my page. It's about, well, quite near the top, pinned there. You can go and check it in the chip strategy video section on my channel if you haven't watched that already. It was from earlier on this week, so it's pretty up to date. In terms of goalkeepers to buy, Kepa is number 1, Pickford number 2, David Raya number 3, all of which play in game week 29. None of them, of course, have a double. Kepa and Bournemouth have a really nice run of fixtures over the medium to long term. Pickford is not bad and Everton look very improved, and David Raya and Arsenal are starting a good run of fixtures. If you are playing your free hit in game week 29 and you're not going to buy Alisson because you have triple Liverpool, I would have a look at Martinez of Aston Villa. And number 5 is Jorgensen. It looks like Jorgensen is going to be Chelsea's new number 1. Maresca has said that in his press conference. So if you need a cheap keeper, I think he's 4.2 million. Chelsea do have Southampton at home and Leicester at home and do play in the blank, although it is against Arsenal. He could be considered as a potential backup, although I would not take a risk on him being your only goalkeeper. So it's more like Fabianski to Jorgensen I like, but I wouldn't get Jorgensen and Fabianski as your 2 goalkeepers. Moving into defence, Gabriel is in at number 1. Arsenal do have a couple of nice games over the next couple of weeks, and I still think if you don't buy him, as much as there is a lot, if you don't own him, if there's a lot of raving about some potential double game week defenders, you've got Kirkes, Howson, also very popular. I think you should just go and buy Gabriel. There are no Liverpool players in this defenders to buy, but that's because basically everyone already owns their triple Liverpool. So if you want to buy Van Dijk, you want to buy Trent, I don't mind it this week, but the majority, pretty much 95% of you, have already owned triple Liverpool, and you're just going to stick with what you've got. Trent is still my favourite Liverpool defender, despite slight risk of minutes. Munoz is in number 2, but of course blanks in game week 29, but the fixtures around that are fantastic, and his attacking threat is great. If you are free hitting in 29, he's a great buy. If not, Kirkes and Howson of Bournemouth are fantastic. Howson is cheaper, and actually his online data is better, but from an open play, sort of exciting to watch aspect, Kirkes is definitely better. If you can't afford Kirkes, or for example, the money does something better for you further down the line, I have absolutely nothing wrong with going Howson, and I'm actually not sure there's 0.6 in value between them. If I had all the money in the world, though, I would buy Kirkes. West Ham do have a nice run of fixtures, and actually under Graham Potter, they do look pretty solid defensively, so I've gone with Wan-Bissaka. And number 6, if you still need a cheap defender, despite the double having been and gone, a bit like Pickford, you can still buy Everton defenders. You could go and spend the money on Tarkowski, who did get a couple of attacking returns in the double, but Mikalenko is still nice and cheap. Into midfield, of course, it excludes Salah and Palmer, who's in pretty much every single player's team. I do like Rodgers. If you can go to him over a Bournemouth midfielder, I do think I would do that. I explained that at the beginning of the video. If you want to jump back and watch that, if you skip that part, I would go to Rodgers if you can afford it. If not, I would go with Kluivert. Now, it is worth mentioning, Kluivert's wife is going to be giving birth over the next couple of days, and there is a very small chance that it impacts Kluivert's minutes and availability going into the weekend. I have Kluivert, and I'm not particularly worried, but I can't have this part of the video if I can't say that. So Kluivert is my favourite Bournemouth midfielder, followed by Dango and followed by Semenyo. And Burma is still worth considering with the upcoming fixtures that they do still have. I prefer a Kluivert over him if I was buying one this week. Number 6 was close between Ranieri and Ahmad. I still like Ahmad with Spurs and some of the upcoming fixtures, Ipswich and Leicester, between now and game week 29. But at 4.5 million with Leicester this week, I do think Ranieri is a very good enabler if it allows you to do something else with your team. Then we're moving up front. We are expecting Ollie Watkins to hopefully be available for the double. Do keep an eye on the Aston Villa press conference, though, which will be on Friday before you confirm buying him, because he is still a slight doubt. Next up is going to be Erling Haaland. Their upcoming fixtures for Manchester City don't look that bad. They may well be getting knocked out of the Champions League to Real Madrid, which means the Premier League would be their highest priority as well. He is going to be very popular from when game week 29 rolls around. I'm not saying you have to buy him now, but having a plan to potentially get him from about game week 29 when it's a blank for Salah and Isak, and then they play Leicester at home in game week 30 could be something to do. If you can go and buy Mateta, again, I really like that, but of course he blanks in game week 29. So if you're not going to free hit, I think he probably goes under the radar. Then it is Visa, and then it is Chris Wood. Over the next couple of weeks, Matej, Cunha and Wolves will be the ones that probably get added to this list. Next up are benching decisions for game week 25, and they're probably the hardest benching decisions we've had this season, and so many people are looking for difficult decisions, so we're going to go through them. Alisson, Martinez, Raya, Henderson, Sells, Pickford, Flecken or Valdemarsson. We don't know who's fully going to be available for Brentford, with Flecken missing the last game, and then it is Dubravka, and of course Nick Pope could come in for Newcastle. Into the midfielders, defenders, midfielders, forwards. If you've got anyone with a double, you need to be starting Rodgers, you need to be starting Watkins, you need to be starting all your Liverpool players. There's no doubt about that. Even if you own a Nesri Konza, it looks like he'll probably be out, but if there's any chance he plays Ipswich, I would be starting him. Into the single game week players then, Palmer is a definite start. There's no way I'd bench him, and Alexander Isak against that Manchester City team, I would be starting as well. Justin Kluivert on penalties, number 3. Then it is Chris Wood. Chris Wood over Brian and Burmo, but also below Kluivert if that is the decision you're having. Then it's the other Bournemouth midfielders who, of course, don't have penalties in Dango Atara and Semenyo. Anthony Gordon is yellow flagged, but if you are not selling him, I would keep him because I do think Newcastle will do well against Manchester City. And if he does end up being in the squad, I think he'll either start or not be in the squad at all. So Gordon is next. That's why he's quite high up because I don't expect to see him on the bench. Then it is Foden. Daniel Munoz is the highest ranked defender with Crystal Palace and Everton playing midweek. Bruno Fernandes and Eze. Eze is a doubt though, so keep an eye on the Crystal Palace press conference. Then it is Visa, Raul Jimenez. Then it is Ahmad. Kirkes over Gabriel. Gabriel over Sarr. João Pedro is quite low down because we just don't know whether he's going to start or not, given he hasn't been fully reliable for minutes over the past couple of weeks. Robinson is over Aina. I will be playing the home fixture there, and I will be playing them over Gvardiol, over Lewis Hall, and then over Mikalenko. If there's anyone I've missed, let me know in the comments, but hopefully that has covered everyone that you need. And before we look at my team, here are the projections for the double the amount of goals scored and things like that. Aston Villa projected to score over 2 goals, which could be a nice return for Unai Emery if that's where you're putting the assistant manager. And of course, Liverpool predicted to do very well across both games if your assistant manager is on Arnie slot as well. Arsenal, Liverpool and Aston Villa, the 3 teams to sort of hit that 40% plus threshold in terms of clean sheet probability in any of their games. Although Aston Villa, if Konza is out, I do expect that number will probably drop below the 40% between now and the deadline because it might be Mings and Disasi going into the Ipswich fixture in particular. Bournemouth are also predicted to score over 2 goals alongside Liverpool, Aston Villa and Arsenal. Those feel like the big 4 fixtures in terms of goals scored. You can tell why people are buying Bournemouth over Morgan Rodgers this week. And now let's have a look at my team. But just before we do that, this video is again being very kindly sponsored by Huel. Huel is a complete meal which literally takes 30 seconds to prepare. And we are now less than 6 months away from my wedding, and I'm doing my best to put out everything with all the very, very quick FPL turnarounds that we've got, but also keeping on top of everything as well. Huel literally takes 30 seconds to prepare. It's got 40 grams of protein. It's got 26 of your essential vitamins and minerals. It's low in sugar. It's plant-based, and it is gluten-free as well. And as I said, £1.68 per meal and literally 30 seconds to prepare. They have a whole host of flavors, and literally all you do is you take the bottle that they give you with your first order. You add a couple of scoops of your powder. I've got the chocolate flavor. They have so many flavors, but chocolate is definitely my favorite. Definitely my one I'd recommend. You add 2 scoops of that. What you do is you take the little cap that they give you, add it on, you give it a good shake, and then that is that. As I said, it has everything that you need. A complete meal, literally 30 seconds to prepare, whole host of flavors. Hopefully you don't hit the mic while I'm doing this. And then that is that. So, honestly, chocolate is, if I had to recommend, would be the one I would go to. Again, if you want to check it out, if there's any interest to you, you can go and use the link in the description, or you can use code HarryFeb as well at checkout to go and get £10 off if you're in the UK, or 15% off if you are in the US as well. Looking at my team, nothing has really changed. I don't have any route to go and buy Morgan Rodgers. I'm going to roll my transfer unless we hear something in the press conference today about one of my players. Gakpo is the one that I've mentioned that I'm looking out for. And the other big update is Ollie Watkins is the one I need. If Watkins is going to be available, I don't think I'm going to buy him, but it might just push me over the edge in order to play my assistant manager chip. I do think Unai Emery, now that I've just got the money in the bank, and I think I might never have an opportunity where I'm sat with the money in the bank that is this easy. So if Watkins is fit and available and looks ready to go, then I do think I'll probably play it. I'm not guaranteeing it because let's see how other things go tomorrow. But I do think if Watkins is available, if Watkins is unavailable, particularly if it looks like he's not going to be back for the Liverpool game, then that will more than likely put me off. But if he's available, it might be enough to convince me to play it and not save it for the end of the season. Nothing really to talk about in terms of benchings. Very happy to bench Ahmad. Captain, of course, is Mo Salah. I didn't actually mention that in my team selection, but everyone is on Mo Salah. Gakpo currently with the vice captain. It could be Trent, though, of course, a player with the double. And we're going to wrap up all the final decisions there. Of course, we will be live this evening. It is a Friday evening deadline. I repeat, a Friday evening deadline We'll be live from 4:30 until 6:30 p.m. on Friday here on YouTube to answer all of your questions, discuss anything that happens in the press conferences today, because of course there are a lot of press conferences on Friday. We'll talk about whether I'm going to activate the assistant manager, what you should be doing with your teams as well. So leave any questions you have in the comment section of this video and I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. If not, do bring them to the stream and we can answer them there as well. Thank you so much for watching. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.